everybody. Welcome
back to the Water and Wine Show.
Yes.
We're glad to have you back.
Thank you. First off, we want to thank everyone for all the positive feedback and suggestions and comments and thoughts and love and prayers and all of that shebang, because all of that has been well felt and we feel invigorated.
We're going to hit on a very serious topic that hits home for the both of us, but we thought it is just very important that we touch on this specifically in the month of October.
Okay. Yes, because October is, well, amongst a lot of other things, it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So that actually is our topic for today, is domestic violence. Both of us has dealt with domestic violence in the past. We've been delivered, but yes, we have dealt with it. So,
of course, if you don't know, the reason why these type of awareness months exist is because exactly what the name says. It's allowing people to focus in on one specific issue, learn more about it. That's the whole awareness piece. A lot of times during these months, these awareness months, you have the opportunity to do, for instance, with breast cancer, there's the breast cancer walk. Some schools, they even have curriculum designed to incorporate these different months to help the students learn more about these issues. So it is very important that, you do pay attention to when these awareness months come up and learn about the different issues at play. And how it affects you as a person, because you never know, there may be someone close to you dealing with those things. Like, I have friends who have autistic kids, and it's something I could never fully relate to, but when this month comes up, I listen. If there's a special on the radio, I listen and tune in so I can learn more about it. Or if I see more information popping up on my news feed, I'll pause so I can read it, so that I can be more aware of what's at play.
And also be aware that every event does not exactly cost. There are a bunch of free events. Shara doesn't know that I actually signed us up for a free event. I don't know if her schedule allows, but
well, thank you for taking that initiative, Candiz. No, I'm down.
So we already discussed what the topic is. So next we're going to get into the misconceptions of domestic violence. First, if you don't know what misconceptions is, it's basically myths, falsehoods of, domestic violence. As some of y'all president may say, the false
fake news.
Fake news.
Oh, you're like false media. Fake news.
Fake news.
You were so close.
So close. Like, it's close.
All right, back to serious us.
I guess the first big misconception about domestic violence persons, is to just leave. Like, that's the biggest thing that people just like, yo, why don't you just leave? And honestly, that is easier said than done.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, because a lot of times the reason why the person is even in that situation in the first place is because there's been a high level of trust, at least from the victim's end, where they trust that person. And it's hard to pick up and leave after you've established that trust, after you've built that rapport, after you've gotten comfortable. That's another important word. There's a high level of comfort, because in order for the abuser to even get to that level where they start abusing the victim, they had to get to that level of comfort where they knew that they can cross that boundary. So, it's from the victim's point of view. There's a lot of mental and emotional and spiritual things at play that we can just go really deep into. In terms of soul ties, and anytime you have a soul tie, trust me, it is not easy to break it. So you have those issues, you have the mental issues of becoming an insecure person. Once you've been abused, how it just messes with your mind so much that you lose your confidence. So even having that, it takes confidence to pick up and say, I don't deserve this, I'm leaving. So you lose that. And just this dependency that you start to have on the abuser.
So along with the whole just leave notion, like we said, it is definitely easier said than done. There's so many different things that come into play for a person to leave. That it's not just fear, because y'all think that well, you can just leave because fear, it is deeply rooted fear. I'm speaking about the fact that even if I do leave, what's going to happen to me if they find me? And that's big.
That is big.
That is super big, because I've seen cases where a person has filed for a restraining order and died days later at the hands of their abuser. So it is that fear. So there has to be a plan put in motion in order for that person to leave. And then the other thing is support. So support can come in so many different ways, and we're going to get really deep into that on our next portion of this. But having support, not just prayers, but people that are there for you, people that are checking in on you. If you're stuck in that situation, trying to figure, playing your way out, people that are making sure that you are actually alive, that you actually, doing mentally well, that you actually are just present. So there's so many different factors, and people want to say why don't you just leave? It's not that easy. Another misconception is it only happens to women.
Definitely don't only happen to women. Men experience domestic violence as well.
How many times have you seen a woman wilding out on a guy? It boils my blood so much. And men, they're required to just stand there like this and block and block and block and block and try to get out that situation as best as possible. And I know that some of you know that one woman who will, as a man is trying to walk away, will still try to beat down on him, beat down on him. Keep that in mind, that it is abused persons, not abused women. I know that a society norm is for us to just shelter women and not to shelter men, but come on now, we're in 2019, almost 2020. We have to protect our kings and queens as well.
And another misconception is that you can change the person who is the abuser, I guess how we can say. So you're the victim and you can change that person. That's a huge misconception. You don't have the power to change someone who is abusing you in that way. If you stay, it doesn't change. A matter of fact, according to stats, it will only get worse. It will only escalate. A lot of times it feels like, that person, he or she, is just going through something right now. And they need me there because I will help them through this. Sis, bro, you cannot help that person through that. Please know, that's a huge misconception. It rarely works out that way.
I agree. I even thought in my situation that I could help. I was yo, you really need some counseling. You need to talk to your pastor. And that it didn't. So it didn't work out like that. So with that misconception that that they're going to change, the only thing that you can change is prayer and to make a plan of action. That's something that you can change. Like we said earlier, everyone can't just readily get out of the situation just like that. But what they can do is make a plan to get out that situation. And if you see someone in that situation and you want to support them, financial support is the biggest thing to relocate them, find them a way out to get into a better situation. You understand, hey, while whoever is at work, just taking all of their stuff, packing it up and dipping out is the best thing that you can do. Cash, transactions, all of that stuff is definitely key, because there's some people that will hunt you down, and people will just live in fear through all of that. So next thing we want to discuss is the stats.
So I think the last full review that I've read from a couple of sites was information and data that came from 2018. And what they found is that based on the numbers, which is in the millions of people who have experienced domestic violence at least one time in their lives, and these are adults, and there's a whole different set of stats for teens. Okay, so those of you who are parents of teens who are just getting into the dating world, you know, sometimes I have parents who are like, oh, my kid is dating, they're 13. I personally, you know, told my daughter at 16 we can have that conversation, but there are, and we've already had that conversation about domestic violence. However, there are different stats for teens, but for the adult population, based on the numbers from 2018, 1 out of every 4 women have experienced domestic violence in their adult life. 1 out of 9 men have experienced domestic violence, right? So these numbers will probably look way more different for people of different sexual orientations, transgender. I'm pretty sure those numbers look completely different. Another interesting stat that I found that really hit home for me was 1 out of every 15 children have had to witness domestic violence in their childhood.
With that, just looking at the stats now, 72% of murder-suicides are involving people that are intimate together and going through domestic violence situations. So like, keep that in mind. It's like, you know, when you're looking in and you're assuming that somebody has like a self-esteem issue or whatever, like, you have to really you have to look at all the factors, because I know I keep expressing it, because people just don't see the whole picture of what's going on in this person's situation. They assume want to express that, that it's so easy to just get out of. And it's not that easy. And even though there's different resources in Maryland, wherever state that you're in, sometimes it's hard to get to. It's hard to access. Some people don't want to go into a shelter and lose everything that they work hard for. They want to be able to keep these things that they've built.
So kind of on the lines of misconception, but not really, is how you misperceive ways that you can be supportive of people that are experiencing domestic violence. It's hard because you want to be supportive, right? And I think a lot of times people don't know how to be supportive. And I think, first of all, that's fine. The fact that you want to intervene and be supportive is good. First, you should be commended on that. But you need to be very careful about the way in which you support. And the reason why I said it kind of falls in line with maybe a little misconception is that you think that you're being supportive when in actuality, sometimes your thought and the mechanisms in which you're trying to employ is actually causing more harm than good.
There's a number of different ways that we can be supportive, and I keep running into that first thing, but I guess it's super big. It's just that stop being so hard on the victim.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we feel like, okay, well, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. Like, that's not what any of the victims need to hear. We need to hear support. We need to be uplifted. We need to see, like, someone has our end. Like, we don't need somebody to show us tough love. Like, plain blank. Like, that's not what we need. We already, getting beat on and smacked around or what have you. And it might not just be physical abuse. It might be emotional abuse, verbal abuse. It might be all of these things. So the last thing we need is to hear someone trying to give us tough love and just nagging at us. No, we need support, like love and support. So I think that's one big thing too.
Just sometimes just being an ear for that person, especially if you're just finding out. You are being a supportive friend or family member and you're just finding out. In the beginning, just be the person who listens, because telling you, it is hard to open up about that in the first place. So if someone's coming to you and say, hey, I really have to tell you something, I don't even know how to, just be receptive to the information at first, listen, and then I think you should ask that person how they want to proceed. Okay? And that's important, because the victim has already had enough of someone else coming in and controlling the situation. So by asking that person, how do you want to proceed, you're almost kind of empowering them to start to get in that mode of making the decision on their own. So if you come in, like Candiz said, and say, oh no girl, pack your bags, we getting up out of here, what you want me to do, you're still putting yourself in a situation where you are in control. And you got to be reminded that the victim has gone through that with the abuser. So you want to, in little ways, step by step, try to start to empower the victim. And empowering is not inclusive of you telling them what they need to do. It's kind of like just planting seeds. Like, what do you want to do? Start to get them thinking and through that.
And to piggyback off of that, like, if you have the means to get them out that situation, we're not saying that you shouldn't, but definitely that empowering part is so super key, because you don't want them to still feel like a victim in your own home or wherever, you know, you help them get into. You don't want them to, you know, feel that. You want them to feel empowered. Another way of support, like some people feel like, maybe this is a little churchgoer in me, but like prayer goes such a long way for me. So when people can't do certain things, like, you know, I ask for regardless, like, yo, prayer, people say prayer don't work. It's like, it truly does. Like when you got like a, you know, warriors at battle in prayer on their knees in their cars at their desk or whatever, it makes a big difference, because now, like, not only is there's other people at battle, like, you know, in the physical sense, but you got that people who are at battle for you in the spiritual sense, and that, like, it makes a world of difference. Like, we can feel that. We can feel that. Other ways of support,
I think just remembering that your position is to support your friend or your family member. Your position is not to attack the abuser. And I know that can be very hard, especially when it's happening to someone that you love and care about. And you just feel like, I'm gonna blank, blankety, blank, 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 beep, 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 etc. But you need to remember who it is that you are coming in, whose priority, which is the victim. And so, you know, just kind of make that your focus during that time, because he or she will need you more than ever to help guide them through what they're going through. And I guarantee you that you are probably one of few, if not the only one, that he or she opened up to about this. So you want to tread very lightly, very carefully, respectfully, and it's going to take a lot of patience. Trust me, I've been the supporter. It's going to take a lot of patience on your part, and it's going to take the skill of connecting, reconnecting, and disconnecting, because at some point you're going to get so involved that when that person, and a lot of times they do decide, I can't do this, I want to stay, or I'm going to give him or her another chance. And if you're so connected, it will crush you. I've been there. It will crush you when you see that person just staying there or going back. They got out and then they go back. It will crush you. So you just have to learn how to kind of dance, because you know, for people who are deep in this, it will be a dance, unfortunately. So when Candiz say, whatever your spiritual practice is, you not only put that into the world for the victim, but for yourself. There's going to be a lot of self-care involved in this for you, and you just need to really mentally and spiritually prepare for that. So if you're a prayer warrior, you want to pray things like, God, give me the right things to say. You know, God lead my path when it comes to this, because again, the worst thing you can do is kind of overstep your boundaries, and then your friend or your family member completely shuts down because they don't feel safe. And I think that's where we get into earlier with the whole, making sure that you are not overstepping your boundaries, is that you want to make that person feel safe. You want if they don't feel safe at home or with this their partner, but with you, and if they've opened up to you, they have to feel safe in some way, shape, or form. You want to make sure that they feel safe with you at all times, because eventually that's how hopefully you'll get them to make better decisions in their situation.
Another way of being supported is to not make assumptions. So what I want to clarify in that is, sometimes it might be the strong friend that's in this situation, and then you're looking at it like, well, you're supposed to be strong, you're supposed to be pillared, like you're not supposed to be going through this, like why are you going through mental health issues, like why are you not, why you have self-esteem issues, like that is not it. Like, so understand that strong people go through things too, and to demoralize them and to demean them because they're going through something, because they're normally the stronger person who helps everybody else get through, is not fair. Like, you have to have some compassion. If you feel like you're not the person that's going to have the compassion, then don't even try. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes showing you support is just pulling yourself away and saying, hey, when you're ready to box up and you got the plan to move, I'm here. That might be just your position. Know that might be just it.
I'm a huge spiritual person, so I believe that you want to not bring in more negative vibes into that person's space. So again, when you just talked about confidence and insecurities and stuff like that, so you got to be reminded that this person is in a space where they are experiencing a lot of insecurities. So when you get around them, it can be in ways that you can be very subtle. You look very beautiful today. Like, go out your way to think of ways where you can help that person feel more confident and secure, because it's going to take that for them to make a move.
Another way of support is to understand that the abuser can oftentimes be a master manipulator. So they can be the most charming person ever, the most put together person ever, and it will make it seem like that victim is completely crazy. I've seen situations where, family members is like, they're not really doing that to you. They're so nice, they're so sweet, they take care of you, they love you, what are you up to? Or they'd be like, stay, because you got everything else, so just deal with it. That is not good at all. That's not good for the mental health of the person, or just for the abused person. Like, you're enabling them via the victim to keep doing what they're doing, and that could be on your conscience. Like, say something the worst, like homicide happens and that person gets taken away from you because you just passed it off that this person, the abuser, is such a good person that they wouldn't do anything like that.
All right, so we can, of course, go on and on, but we would like to hear from you in terms of if you've been a supporter of someone who has experienced domestic violence, in what ways did you step in and help? So if you can share that down in the comments to share within the community,
yes.
That will be helpful. But for now, we're just going to move on to, if you are the person currently who you're experiencing domestic violence, we want to turn to you. And we want to look at you and say, make the best decision for yourself. And that does not include being abused. And that does not include being verbally abused or physically abused. Okay? And we want to tell you that we are here. Some of you may not know, but if you're going through this, if you reach out to us, we are here for you because we take this very seriously.
We're also going to provide some links in our video, well, not in our video, but in the description of our video, that will be able to help you all get through these things. Like, seeking professional help is good, but man, therapy is not for just crazy people. That's the whole misconception about therapy. But having a therapist to get you through this and to get you past this point, because another misconception, going back to the misconceptions, is that people need to be refurbished, but no, more so you need to be rebuilt, because you don't want to have all of these broken pieces put back together and you don't feel whole again. You need to be rebuilt into an entirely different person, greater than what you once was. You a whole new model of who you were back then. You were just a completely different grade of person. And so that is so deeply key, and therapy helps with that. Support from different family members, friends, clergy, strangers help with that. So we're going to provide these resources for all of you, and we hope that you check them out. And if you feel like these resources are not helpful in any way, feel free to reach out to us, because we're going to definitely try to find a way to help you.
Definitely find someone, at least one person. There has to be one person in your life that you trust, that you can talk to. Open up. Start. You have to start somewhere. And I know it's hard, but you have to start somewhere to release this. And again, you may have a lot of history with this person. Y'all may share a lot of memories. You may even have not only emotional or soul ties, but financial ties, as Candiz says. But you are not deserving of this, okay? And you have to start to make the necessary steps in order to get out of this. And that's our hope for you. And we know it's easier said than done, but our hope for you is to get on the other side of this domestic violence situation, if you are in one.
And you'll be quite surprised of where your help can come from. So don't be afraid to ask people outside of the norm of people. You sometimes you be so surprised how much co-workers, bosses can help you get out of certain situations, especially someone who's not affiliated with that person who is abusing you at all. And on the people who are supporting, you'd be surprised how your little thing that you think is just so little is helping can be such a big thing to the victim. So don't sell yourself short saying, oh, this is just a little thing, so I'm not going to do it. Do it anyway. It's okay. Those little things add up, and it's a big bonus and reward in the end for both you and for that person.
So that's where we're going to end off for this episode. But again, we could have gone on and on and on, but we just wanted to hit those points for this episode. Again, we wanted to give you a little statistical data of what's out there based on 2018 research studies, and we wanted to provide you with some tips on if you are the supportive friend or family member of someone who is going through this. And then if you are the one who's currently experiencing this, we wanted to make sure we provided you with some information to start the necessary steps in order to get out of this.
And one slightly additional thing, if you know someone who is the abuser, there's help for abusers too. So there's counseling services, there's different things that are for the abused person, and free services too. Free. F-R-E-E. Free. So just know that, all around, if you want to show your support or, what have you, there's help all around, even for the families of victims.
That's good.
There's help. So thank you for listening, and our next episode, we're going to actually share our testimonies about what we went through in our own situation. Thank you for joining in on this, and
we'll see you next episode, we hope. And in the meanwhile, follow us on Instagram at The Water and Wine Show. We're on Facebook, Water and Wine Show. Here on YouTube, Water and Wine Show. But keep the conversation going. This is important. We are in Domestic Violence Awareness Month for a reason. So let's continue to generate a conversation around this, okay? All right.